Hello, welcome, welcome back. It has been a long time since I made the last Unreal Engine 5 video. And I'm really sorry about that. I really wanted to make another Unreal Engine related video for such a long time, but it wasn't quite the time. I wasn't free at all. It was actually not the right time to start this channel at all, but I wanted to just shout out the last video to maybe reach 1 or 2 because it was very exciting stuff, I thought. And now, as it turned out, it weren't just 1 or 2 people. I'm very amazed and I'm so happy that I could reach so many people with my last video. And I'm really glad that so many of you found it so helpful. I read so many beautiful, nice comments and suggestions also. I'm usually not the Unreal Engine streamer. I'm actually trying to put out some music. But from time to time, I'm open to make Unreal Engine videos as well. If you like, I could also make some beginner tutorials as well, if you like. But there are lots of them out there already, and I'm not sure if I could really add anything to the amount of beginner tutorials already available on YouTube. Excuse me. So what I'm going to show you today is something pretty exciting, and I hope you found it useful too. Again, it is made possible with the 5.1 version of Unreal Engine. There's something new that made it available. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you, first of all, I'm going to show you what I came up with, which is we're going to make Lumen look more like actual path tracing. Sounds pretty exciting. Yeah, it is. I'm very happy that I finally made it. And with the help of the 5.1 features, it was actually possible to get closer into the direction. And so nonetheless, it seems that it's quite the right time to do another video now. And another topic I want to cover is I came across many comments asking for the parameter of the mesh SDFs and particularly referring to the reflections and problems with reflections they have. So what I'm also going to do today is I'll talk a bit about Lumen reflections and how you should use Lumen for reflections, maybe also some ways to improve your reflections. Without further ado, thank you all for watching, and I hope you find that video useful again. So first of all, let's look what is actually possible with Lumen to get into the direction of path tracing. So I have 2 scenes here for you. First scene shows the original Lumen and compared it to real path tracing. And then we compare it to our new Lumen, which is a bit exaggerated, is just some very specific settings and combinations of settings to get there. I will show you how to do that. So let's take a look. As you may have noticed, so this is the scene. So you have everything here. Yeah, it's a closed room, just a point light out there, and we have everything in here. We have translucency, reflections here. We have different colors. We have foliage, which is also a bit tricky with all the ambient occlusion stuff, and on top of that, the light is also very bright. No, it's white. So so the source itself is very white. So we get, as you can see here, soft shadows, which are pretty extreme. They are pretty extreme soft shadows. So we have everything in here, which is a real challenge for Lumen to get there in real time. So let's see how original Lumen looks compared to this, which is, yeah. This is a pretty big difference. I don't have to tell you that. So what I wanted to mention earlier, as you may have noticed, so in the 5.1 version of Unreal Engine, we have the problem that I think graphics cards under the GTX 1080, or I think even all GTX graphic cards do no longer support the hardware ray tracing solution for Lumen, as well as the ray tracing features at all. So the problem is that my PC does have a GTX graphics card, and I'm not as strong enough, you could say, to handle hardware Lumen. So what I did here is, for the real path tracing shot, I switched back to the 5.03 version of Unreal Engine to get this shot. But it's nonetheless, it's path tracing, and although there have been changes in the 5.1 version to path tracing a lot, actually, you get the idea. It's as an exclaimer, it is not meant to look exactly as path tracing. That's impossible. So don't think that. But we are trying to get closer to that, from this to that. Yeah. And now let's see how our new Lumen version looks compared to this. And yeah, as you can see, yeah, where is it? It's much closer to actual path tracing compared to the original Lumen, at least. This is miles away, although it's a good job nonetheless. But yeah, this is quite a difference between old Lumen and our version, which we are going to make today together. Just a little sneak peek into the second scene, which shows pretty much also the limitations of our technique today. So now I have here an old. It's a very strange scene, I give you that. But the purpose was to just have one directional light with no additional skylighting at all, and see how the indirect lighting will look like. And yeah, and these balls are meant to be a bit challenging for the ambient occlusion stuff, and so. And there's this reflective cube in the middle. Reflections are always a bit of a problem, as you know. This is why this cube is here. So we have a bit more challenging scene for Lumen. Now the original Lumen scene in comparison, actually I could just open that. The original Lumen scene here, which is, I think it's this one, yeah. It looks a bit different. I had to remake it for this video, but I'll show you later why. Spoiler, reflections. And as you can see in the original Lumen scene, it has it does a good job, but it has a few problems. One of the biggest issues is that this first bounce reflection here is, come on, way brighter than in the path trace version. So there's just too much light here, and but it's not bad. No, it's not bad at all. And if we compare to our version, which we are going to make today, you can see probably the biggest difference is the reflections, and also that everything just looks a bit more homogeneous, a bit more yeah, a bit more set into the environment, as obscure as the environment is, but it's just a tad. It feels more, yeah, a bit more lively. Although it is not really close to the actual path tracing result we get here. This is why I wanted to show you the second scene, because we are just using tricks here. We are not getting anywhere near real path tracing, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer, and we want to make our scene look more homogeneous, more just everything more lively and more lifelike, as you can say. And yeah, so now let's look into that. So here I have the first scene opened in the Unreal editor, and the first thing I want to talk about, I think, is probably the nearly most exciting thing, at least to me, and it was only possible in the 5.1 version. And the reason is that in 5.1 we have more Lumen settings. So if you look in the post-process volume, and where is it? Oh my gosh. Here it is. I just used it 100 times, so I don't know why I couldn't find it. And yeah, the first thing, the first thing we want to make sure is that we set everything to cinematic. You can do it here on the settings and engine scalability settings, and here everything is cinematic. Just you, in case you wonder, the scene comparisons here. The scene comparisons here are also shot with cinematic settings, and everything is the same in terms of the usual quality settings. So, like here, define gather quality and stuff like that. This is already the case in the original Lumen picture that I made here. So this is really the highest quality you get with just Lumen as it is, and yeah. And the settings are, so first of all, cinematic, everything, and then you have under Lumen global illumination, you have the Lumen scene detail. I took it to 2 just in case. It's just a bit more. It takes smaller objects into account. I think it's not very problematic for the scenes we are going to deal with today, but in general, it's a good idea. If you really want the highest quality, set it to 2 or 3 or something. Final gather quality, I went nuts with this. I just took 8 because why not? Highest quality, whatever. Then we have the advanced stuff. And this is, as you already can see, something very interesting in the new version. So first of all, we have the update speeds, which is just how quickly the cache refreshes and stuff like that. We already had that in the older version of Unreal, but now we got a little parameter called diffuse color boost. And diffuse color boost, essentially what it does, or what it is supposed to be doing, is just brighten up the indirect lighting. And as you can see here, probably one of the biggest differences between the original Lumen and our new version is the brightness of the indirect lighting. So it's the most notable thing, yeah. It's actually a lot more than that, but it's one of those things, you know. You just see it right at the blink of an eye. Yeah. And diffuse boost, just to show you that if I take it down to 1, and now because my machine is quite slow and has a hard time on rendering the scene, we'll just have to wait a little bit. Or maybe just in for the sake of this video, I just put the settings down to medium. It's just so I can show you better the dynamics, and we already have the high resolution screenshots, so why not? Yeah, okay, that was too low. High. I think high is necessary to actually get Lumen to work. Otherwise, it won't work. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now, as a comparison, 1.55 was the magic number, and maybe you see it now. It brightens up a little bit. I can take it even further. I think 5 or so. Well, 4 is the maximum. And if you wait a little bit, you see everything gets brighter and brighter and brighter, except for the really dark spots. And yeah, if I take it back to 1, everything gets darker again. So we take it back to 1.55. So the idea is, the first idea is to make the indirect lighting brighter. And we do that with diffuse color boost. 1.55 is a very specific setting, and it's the setting which correlates the best, at least as I found, and I tried for hours, believe me. It is, in my opinion, the closest we get to the path tracing result. So that was the idea here, to get the indirect lighting brightness about the same as on the path tracing scene. So that's not everything, because you may wonder, okay, why was it necessary to wait for the 5.1 version to just increase the brightness a little bit? You already could do this on the lights themselves. So if you look at the point light, we already have a setting called indirect lighting intensity. And as you can see, I also increased it a little bit. So the default is 1, I set it to 1.25. The reason being is that I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just some way Lumen calculates the bounces and it wasn't really thought of. I don't know. But I tested this, and you can try it yourself if you wish, of course. But it is a great difference if you change the indirect lighting intensity on the light to, I don't know, double, so just 2. Or if you do the same in the post-process setting under diffuse color boost. So what is the difference? The brightness difference is about the same, but there is a different look to the whole indirect lighting. So with the diffuse color boost, we get not only brighter indirect lighting, but the indirect lighting itself is more matched up. I'm not sure why this is the case, but it is what I noticed when I compared different settings. So if you just focus on the diffuse color boost, we will get more meshed up lighting than before, and it looks a bit more washed out, but also a bit more homogeneous. So you need to find the right spot, if you will. So it looks realistic and not less deep or something. And the problem with changing just the indirect lighting intensity on the light itself is that it will look too sharp. So it's just the other way around. So the indirect lighting intensity on the light increases, the indirect lighting intensity. Wow. But it keeps a sort of depth. Depth. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'm stupid in English. So you get more sharpness in your scene. So the indirect lighting gets brighter, but it also looks more sharp, and you can try it yourself to really see it. I'm trying to. Maybe I could just, for the sake of presentation, I can do that here. So I put the indirect lighting intensity to 5, and now we go to the diffuse color boost and take this to 1. I think 5 was a bit too much. Just for the sake of presentation, you can try this at home, which is probably better than waiting for my laptop to calculate all of this. I have a laptop because my PC is for audio. And it's too much, maybe 3. Okay. Wait till it accumulates, and now, okay. So everything is quite bright, but I'm not sure. Maybe it is. It's still too bright. So 2, maybe 2. So now everything is a bit brighter than with the 1. But you can see here it is a bit. It has a lot of depth still. So if we do the same with the diffuse boost setting, set this to 2. Or 4, maybe? Yeah. So now we're going. So you already see that we need a higher setting to even get the around equal amount of indirect lighting intensity. And what I noticed is that it was actually the other way around. I think now you notice more that these shadows here are darker. Everything is a tad darker, and so it is really a difference. You can try this yourself, but the best thing to compare this is by taking screenshots and really compare the screenshots, because then you see it right away. It's really noticeable. But I think you already get the idea from this little presentation, and we return to our standard values, I think, to show you what you actually need to do to get to the desired results. So we are selecting all our light sources. In this case, it's only the point light from out there, and we're setting the indirect lighting intensity to 1.25. 1.25. Little magic number here, but it's from many hours of testing, and so the diffuse boost you have to set to 1.55. Okay, so these are the 2 magic numbers you need to set. And yeah, I think you know where to set it. So select your light sources and search for indirect lighting intensity 1.25, and the same in the post-process volume. You need to have the post-process volume. And you go to the Lumen illumination, advanced, and under the advanced stuff, there's diffuse color boost, and set this to 1.55. So this is the first step, and it brings you the closest to our result here, but it's not exactly that. And what I will do is I'll post the comments I use in the description. So you just have to copy paste them more or less in your project. And here are quite a lot of settings I found to get closer to actual path tracing. So now we have this stuff here, and I think the easiest way to use it is if I just copy paste this into the description, so you can copy paste it right in your project and into your project, excuse me. And quite a few people, I think, asked where they could save their settings, so I will just show it here. As you can see, my project is named Lumen as Path Tracing 03 because it's the third version. I really spent a lot of time making this. I switch over here. I have it already open. So it's Lumen as Path Tracing, or whatever your project name is under the projects. You go to config, and in the config you have the default engine. Excuse me. .ini or ini, or I don't know how to pronounce it in English. It's not my mother tongue. So let's open the. Oh my gosh. It's Windows 11. Let's open the INI and see. So you see here some standard settings, and by default it will look something like this. So you open it up, it will look like this. All you have to do is search for something like R dot shadow virtual or whatever, or ray tracing. It's under engine renderer settings, but I'm not sure if that even matters. Basically, you can put this stuff anywhere in the realm of here. So just revert it. So, and these are the same settings as in the text file you saw. Where is it? Yeah, settings. We'll go through them, and you can just copy paste them as I showed you right now. And the first setting is downsample factor. It's 8. As you already know from my last video, the downsample factor is kind of the resolution in which Lumen gathers its probes. So this is because, basically you can imagine it like you have your screen, and the screen probe gather is the probes from which light is gathered onto the screen. And downsample factor is how much is downsampled, because you don't want a probe per pixel. That would be insane. And downsample factor is just how much distance there is between each probe in terms of, I think it's really pixels, so 16 will be less resolution than 8, actually. Just as a quick background information. So we set it to 8. Also, if you change your scalability setting to cinematic, you will have 8 by default. So this is also changed by the scalability setting. So you could set it to cinematic. You can even go lower if you wish, but I think it's nonsensical because performance will suffer a lot. And by the standard of today, Lumen isn't such a good condition that even downsum factor 8 or 16 looks absolutely amazing. I can't really complain. So if it's necessary or not, I don't know, but I just take it to 8 because it's the cinematic setting. Then we have the full resolution jitter width. The full resolution jitter width is just to reduce noise. So I already showed that in the last video. If you make this higher, you will get more noise, but it's also a more steady picture. But now, as the state of now, Lumen is in such a good condition that the jittering really isn't that noticeable, or it isn't noticeable anymore at all. So we can reduce this to get a bit less noise. It's just a tad, it's fine, more fine. It's, yeah, just less noise. Then we get an interesting setting, the spatial filter number passes. So I won't really explain what's behind this, but you can imagine it like if there's some sort of it's some an easy way to explain it, just how to use this, is the more number of passes you have, the more homogeneous your light will look, and it will just look a bit more cleaner, a bit more natural. So if you reduce this too much, you will have a bit flocky. Is this an English word? I'm not sure, but it sounds good. It looks a bit more, uneven, yeah, and not as refined. The default, and this is the interesting part, the default for this is actually free. So it's actually higher than the value I put here. The reason is that with a value of free, in my opinion, and I really sat there for hours and testing this and trying this, and in my opinion, 2 has, especially in combination, and this is the point, especially in the combination of increasing the diffuse color boost and our indirect lighting intensity on the light, especially with this combination, 2 gives back more of the depth of the scene. Because when we increase the diffuse color boost and the indirect lighting intensity, we are increasing the indirect lighting intensity as a whole, but we are also making the scene look a bit more loose, a bit more washed out, yeah. And this is why I put this setting from 3 down to 2, because it's a bit, yeah, it is an exchange for the increase in the indirect lighting intensity. And next setting is also very interesting. It's the max radiance hit angle. It's also a setting I covered in the last video, but now I found the actual good use for this. And it really has to do with ambient occlusion. Let's take a look at our scene here. And what we notice from the original Lumen is, take a look on the ambient occlusion. Especially if you compare it to the path trace version. One thing, except from the actual brightness of the indirect lighting, but one thing you also notice is that the ambient occlusion is so much more subtle. It's so much more subtle. If you look here, it's very noticeable, and here inside of this cube shape, whatever, just to increase the difficulty for the indirect lighting, it's barely there actually, and this is the path tracing result. So you see, ambient occlusion is also far too apparent in the original Lumen scene, and this is actually what this setting does. Not this one, this. By increasing the max variance hit angle to 90, we get much more subtle ambient occlusion. And if I switch to our version, you see here in the corner, the ambient occlusion is much more subtle. And this has not anything to do with the in-real gliding intensity changes we made. This is really, this is our settings here. So they are important as well. So just by changing the intensities here, we are not quite there. The next setting are this is some iteration stuff. So we have this one here, the HZB traversal iterations, then height frame max tracing steps. Also the max iterations of hierarchical screen traces, and also here hardware ray tracing max iterations. It's a bit funny because I can't use hardware ray tracing on my laptop anymore. But it will make a difference if you use hardware ray tracing for Lumen. And what these settings do, this one, this one, this one, this one, they are increasing just a tad fidelity to Lumen. Especially if you have hardware Lumen running, it is very, very subtle, but it is a difference. You can notice it especially in corners, I think, corners as well with the ambient occlusion. One thing you will notice is that it will look, especially when you decrease the resolution, it will look just more refined. Just there's a tad more more looks into actual path tracing. So they are subtle settings, but they are definitely a step closer to path tracing or to the path tracing look, because we are only tricking here. And then we have the max ray intensity. Just set it to 200 because I really want to make sure to have all the intensity the scene has to offer, and to make the scene look as full of depth and lively as possible. Because, and I really have to correct myself there from the last video, the max ray intensity does in fact really affect how the indirect lighting will look, not only in terms of brightness, but also in terms of homogeneous look. I'll just take this setting, put it in here, and we'll reduce this just to show you what I mean. It is amazing. And you can use this for artistical purpose. So I'll just show you what I mean. If I reduce it to 0.5, okay, there's not much difference. Maybe 0.2 even. Yeah, now everything gets much more dark. Maybe even further. 0.1. Yeah, okay. So now the indoor lighting is much darker. But as we know, we have our parameters here. So we can we can reduce that. Well, actually, the actual lighting intensity, we can increase that. And now, what do you see is that our scene just got much sharper. So it doesn't really matter how much intensity I put there in the direct lighting, yeah, in the direct lighting now. The indirect lighting will always stay the same. And you can use this for artistic purposes, but the problem is your scene gets very sharp, and the indirect lighting itself, if you want to increase that, you have to use these values here. Yeah, you can see how unrealistic it gets. So maybe 5,000. No, it doesn't matter. It just won't respond, and that's the problem. So we really want to increase the maximum intensity to 200 or even further. It doesn't really matter, but the most important thing is that it is high enough so that yeah, um, it covers all the possible intensity in your scene from direct lighting. The next thing I want to talk about, yeah, the same with radiosity, max ray intensity. Just to be safe, just increase the max ray intensity. Min traces as the sample surface. This also affects the ambient occlusion. So combining these settings with this, and I think it was also the tracing steps and also the everything just makes a little difference, a little subtle difference closer to path tracing, and especially to the ambient occlusion, which is the main problem remaining. And then we have here kernel size, yeah, which is also relevant for corners, smaller kernel size, and here the distance to one to get better ambient occlusion. And basically, that's it for the result you see here, for this difference. And now, finally, I want to talk about, let's just forget this mess. I'll just switch to our second scene. And there it is. So, okay, and now I'm on the camera. I think it is the camera, yeah. And oh, I know. It's because I changed the setting. Me stupid. Intensity back to 200. Yeah, that's a lot better. I just thought what was wrong with the scene. It's because I changed the max intensity setting. Yeah. So now, what do we have here? It's another thing I read in the comments quite often. It's about the problems with reflections some people have now, because the I think it was max SDF mesh trace something distance. I don't know. This property, the setting doesn't exist anymore in the 5.1 version, and I can you can calm down. It isn't there anymore because it is not needed anymore. The setting itself already is to the best that is possible. Let me say it this way. We will see what's the actual problem people have. I think, I hope it is what they are facing, and let me just show you what the problem is, I think. So for demonstration purposes, let me go into the chrome material and just change the roughness a bit, so maybe 1.0, I don't know, 2, so we get cleaner reflections. Yeah. And so what is the problem people are facing? So the mesh STF trace distance something setting, what it actually did was it kept the rendering of the mesh SDS, so the distance fields, active when they are farther away. So as you can see, if you look into this mirror, cube, or whatever it is, I can see in a reflection the mesh distance fields. So that is what they look like. So even if I get farther away, they're still there. Far away, they're still there. So the problem isn't really the mesh SDF trace distance setting, because it is already set up to be optimal. This is probably the reason why it doesn't exist anymore, because it is already optimized. And this is what it would have done. It is if your meshes are getting kind of billboard looking from far away, then this setting would have helped, but they look the same all the way, from near to far. So the real problem why this looks so ugly is the system itself, and it's not really a problem. It is just a limitation. The thing is, Lumen, as amazing as it is, and you really sometimes think it is like magic, I know, but it is just technology, and technology has, unfortunately, its limitations. And this is a problem you face with the software version of Lumen. Because software Lumen has to rely on those mesh distance fields. This is because it is working at all in the software version, because it is so much faster to calculate against these mesh distance fields instead of the actual meshes, which is the case in hardware ray tracing. So what can you do? In order to have mirror-like reflections like that, which look more than just like, yeah, it's a fake reflection that's better than nothing, you need to enable hardware lumen. There's no way around it. You need to have to enable hardware lumen. I show you where you find it under Edit Project Settings. You have Rendering tab, and there you have Support hardware ray tracing. You need to enable that, and use hardware ray tracing when available. You also need to enable that, and then you also maybe want to enable the high quality translucent reflections. So you also get high quality reflections on translucency. So the reason why it looks like trash, although I have enabled this stuff, is because, as I mentioned earlier, in 5.1, unfortunately, my graphics card, it's the other way around. Hardware Lumen isn't supported anymore for my graphics card. But you just can try this. Believe me, if you just enable support hardware ray tracing, use hardware ray tracing when available, and then you have to go to hid lighting for reflections. That's also important instead of surface cache. Then you really should see clean, nice, beautiful reflections, mirror-like reflections also. And for software Lumen, that's the limitation. So just to reduce the confusion around this topic, hopefully, what you can do, however, if you say, okay, hardware Lumen is not something I really want to put in my game or my project or whatever, or I can't run it like me, what you can do is, as you can see, when I get this chair and table onto my screen, you can see how the reflection changes to something much more nice and clean. And if I get it off the screen, you see how it switches over to the mesh distance field representation. It's because Lumen uses screen traces above of those surface cache traces, and if the chair isn't visible in the scene anymore, Lumen has to rely on these surface cache traces, and they can, of course, only show you the distance field representation. So this is why it looks good when you only look into the mirror. It looks bad when you only look in the mirror, but if you look in onto the object in your scene, then it will look good in the mirror. So what you can do is try to make shots or try to design your scene in such a way that reflecting objects which are very well visible are also more visible or more likely to be visible from the main camera. So if I just put the chair and table nearer to this reflecting surface, you see that I can move around more with my camera, and the reflections will stay quite stable and look okay, at least for the chair and table. Because here in the background, those spheres, they are outside of our camera, so that's why they look bad. But yeah, that's one way to do it. The other way to do to handle with this problem in software Lumen is you can, if I select the surface again and increase the roughness again. So another thing you can do is just if you have reflecting surfaces, ask yourself how clean they really need to be. You can increase the roughness a bit. So with an increased roughness, as you can see here, or maybe 0.1, so it's a bit more clean. That's too far. It is maybe 0.22. Let's see. This takes a second. Yeah. Now you can hide this poor reflections a little bit. And the reason I switched to reflections before I covered the last two settings here is because these two settings are going to improve your reflections also for software Lumen, or especially for software Lumen. So let me show you how this thing looks without all improvements. If I set this to 0 and also the smooth bias to 0, yeah, that's what you're going to see, and it looks, wow, it looks freaky. Holy moly. I hope it's visible in the video. It looks just crazy. Not very pleasant at all. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why you are so pissed with with the software Lumen reflections. If you increase the roughness, you get something like this. So what you need to do is get to the last two settings here, copy paste them in your project, and what it does is it just gives some bias to your reflections. So they're not. If I set it to 0.3, oh, that's so much better. Oh my gosh. So you still have the roughness of the reflection, but it's not as pixelated and not as flashy as it was before. So it's much better. And you can even improve this further by setting the smooth bias to 0.3 as well. Yeah, you can also play with the settings if you need higher biases or lower. Just experiment with it a bit. Yeah, so the last two settings, I would say experiment. The other are pretty much optimized. I think I spent hours on them, and these are our more or less magic numbers, but you can use them, and you can use them to get to such amazing results with software Lumen and in real time. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, that's the default Lumen, and that's with our new settings. It's such a big difference. And yeah, just play with the settings, especially something like the second scene. You can play with the lighting intensities. So the indirect lighting intensity, I set this to, I don't know, 5, just for fun. And reduce the diffuse boost, or just toggle it off. And now I can, for example, max ray intensity, I can reduce this to 0.2 as we had before. And oh, that's too much. 0.4 maybe. 0.6. Yeah. And you can really change the look of your indirect lighting, the depth and the homogeneous look, and the feel of your indirect lighting with playing with these three settings basically. So diffuse boost, the indirect lighting intensity, and the max ray intensity, they all affect how your indirect lighting will look. And the numbers I gave it before, so 200 for the max ray intensity, just to get the most depth, then 1.55 for the diffuse boost, and the 1.25 for all your lights in your scene. You have to set this for all your lights in your scene. So these settings are meant to be the most realistic, or the closest to path tracing as I personally could get. Feel free to experiment with these settings. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Again, it was quite longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. And please play with the settings. Tell me what you experience. And now that I have finally time to get into this channel, and it's the right time now to make more videos. I'm not sure if I already said it. It is meant to be a channel for releasing some original music, and so this is my top priority for this channel. I hope maybe you find some compositions, productions appealing too. Maybe listen to some of them, or enjoy my music. This is really my passion, and I hope it brings more joy into your lives. And that said, it doesn't mean I don't work on Unreal anymore. So if I find anything interesting, like the things I showed you today, I will gladly make another video. And if you have any suggestions, questions, please write them in the comments. Maybe if you want to, I could also make an Unreal tutorial for beginners. So more generally speaking, not only lighting, but generally speaking, Unreal tutorials for beginners. I think I'm qualified to do that, at least, if you're really interested. Although I think that these topics are already covered quite well around YouTube. You find lots and lots of beginner tutorials. But if you're interested, I could make some of them as well. Or if you have questions, I will address them. Maybe also make another video for your questions if I have any answers or ideas how to tackle your problems. And I hope you found this stuff useful. I hope you found it interesting today. And I hope you are not too, about the reflection thing, which is really a limitation by software Lumen, but you really need to understand that it's just technology, and it's amazing that it is as powerful as it is. And if you have to with the opportunity to switch to hardware Lumen, you should do that to get really good quality reflections for your scenes and games. So use hardware Lumen. It is the future. We will all step back from non-ray tracing solutions the further time goes. So I bet in 2 years from now on, we will only use hardware ray tracing solutions anymore. This is my bet. So look into the future, see if you can update your graphics cards and use hardware Lumen for reflections. So with that said, I hope everything's covered, and I hope you'll see you next video, and I hope maybe some of you have enjoyment in some music I'm going to release soon. Thank you again for the huge support, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye. And the diffuse boost we again set to 1.5. I had one setting with 1.55. Oh my gosh. Wait, let me open the scene again. Yeah, there's sorry. Excuse me for this little excuse. Maybe I cut it out. I think I will cut it out. And now, yeah, it was 1.55 actually. Yeah. So the diffuse boost you have to set to 1.55. I don't know. I wasn't sure anymore. It's been too much.